students. How are you all? I hope you all are good. You all are very well. Before starting the session, I would like to introduce myself. So, my name is Arushi Sharma, and I'm going to teach you a chapter that is the wastewater story. So, student, from the name of the chapter only, what you can imagine, like about this chapter, that what you are going to see or what we are going to discuss about in this chapter. So, it's the wastewater story. That means, students, we are going to study about the water and the wastewater. So, if I say water and the wastewater, so what's the difference between the two, like water and the wastewater? As we can see that the water, that means we can use that water exactly like for our domestic purposes, like for bathing, drinking, or any other kind of the domestic purpose we can say. But if I'm talking about the wastewater, that means that water is not good for the use, or you can say that that water is the polluted one, or we can say contaminated one. That means which are having some kind of impurity so that we can't consume it. Exactly. So that's why we are going to study today that what is the wastewater and how can we treat it, or it's like that we are going to see that what is the cause of it. So we are going to look at all of these things in this chapter, and today's topic which we are going to cover up is that the introduction. That means we are going to see that what is exactly the wastewater is. Okay, then what is the importance of the water, sewage, water pollution, and what are the major water pollutant. That means, okay, we know this thing that the water is getting polluted day by day, or we can say that the pollution of the water is increasing day by day. But what are the major part which is playing the role in the pollution of the water? So we are going to see that what are the sources which are producing the water pollution. So we are going to see all of these things in this chapter, in this session. Okay, not in whole chapter, because this chapter contains other thing as well, but just now that for this session we are going to cover up all of these topics. Fine. So now starting with the introduction, that what is the wastewater? As just before starting of the before starting of the session, or it's just that before coming to the point of that what we are going to study is, I have already asked you one question, that what's the difference between the water and the wastewater? Exactly, I have already asked you. So here's the same question, that what is the wastewater? So just take your time and think like that what could be the perfect definition for the wastewater. So students, in a very simple language, if I make you understand about the wastewater, so it's just that the wastewater is a type of the water which is not good for use, like you can't use it for any kind of the purpose, not for the cleaning purpose, not for the bathing purpose, not for the drinking purpose. That means you can't use that wastewater for your domestic purposes at all. Fine. So as you can see here, that it says that the water which gets contaminated, means the impurities are there after various works like washing, bathing, mopping, etc., is called as the wastewater. Exactly. That students, when we use the water and after usage of the water, so what we find out, like during washing or bathing, that so many things has been involved in it. For example, if you're washing clothes, okay, so what happened, that we use water, and in that water what we had soaps and detergent. Even though when the clothes has been washed up, so it's just that the impurities or the dirt or any grease or oil particle which are present over the cloth, so what will happen, that is also going to be dissolved in that water. Exactly. So that's how student we can see that that after the usage of the water gets contaminated, or we can say that the impurities are present in that, so that we can't use that water again, or we can say that the water is not good for the use, so we call it as the wastewater. So if I ask you that from where we are getting that wastewater, so it's not like that only our houses is producing the wastewater. It's just that the factories, offices, buildings, offices and buildings is the same thing we can say, and like the schools, hospitals, from everywhere, from everywhere we are getting the wastewater. It's not only about the houses from where we get the wastewater. It is about we can say from each and every type of the you can say that is the offices or schools, hospitals. So from each and everywhere we are getting the wastewater. That means that water is not good for the use, or we can say that it is contaminated. Okay, so that is the wastewater. Now it's the important thing, you can see here that the World Water Day, that we celebrate the World Water Day on 22nd of March. So students, like the wastewater is there, so what's the need of studying this chapter? Do you realize this thing, that what's the need of studying this chapter, that why we are studying it? Yes, we know that when we wash something, or when we bath, or so water get, like water is having some kind of impurities in it. So now, like we know this thing, that it is the wastewater. So why we are studying this chapter? Because students, the thing is that yes, we know that it is the waste water, but we don't know that how we are polluting it. I know this thing, that okay, while bathing, while washing, that yes, that water is going to be contaminated, but it's not only that portion of water is contaminating. It's just that along with that portion of water, the other portion of the water which is present in river, lakes, or the oceans, that portion of water is also going to be contaminated, and it is just because of only us. So that is why student, how to get rid of the, or to get more knowledge that how we are causing the water pollution. So that is why we are here to study this chapter. Fine. So we have seen that okay, what is the wastewater. Now we are going to see that what are the importance of the water, that why water is important. So if I ask you that okay, start writing something about importance of water, or why water is important, so I think so that students can write a long essay, or I can say long paragraph, because the water is one of the essential need of every living being. It's not only about human beings, plants, that the water is essential need of each and every kind of living being, human beings, animals, as well as plants. If three of us, that the living being, we are not getting the water, so we are not able to survive our life. Why? Because water help us so much. In what way? That the water maintains our body, that the you can say that the most amount of like our body contains water only. And even though water is very important in the many other functions as well in our body. So that is why student, water is very essential. And even though, like it's not like if we start recounting the reasons that why water is needed, so I think so it would be a very silly thing, because we know this thing, that water is very important. Either we talk about our body, or either we talk about our domestic purposes, or any other kind of purpose. So water is one of that thing, that which is the need of every person, or every animal, or every um, plant. Because students, what happened, that when plants grow, or even though when plants do the photosynthesis process, that means when they prepare the fruit food for themselves, or for us also, so they require the water, because there's the absorption of the water from the soil, or from any other source. And even the student, if you have noticed that for the irrigation of the crops, water is used only. Exactly. So that's why student, if we start recounting the reasons, so I can't think that how many reasons are there, because water is used up each and everywhere. So you can see water is one of the most important substance on the earth. Exactly. All plants and animal, human beings must have water to survive. If there is no water, that means there will be no life. Exactly. Apart from drinking to it to survive, people have many other uses for water. Exactly. As I have told you, that not only for the drinking, or not only for the survival, we need water for many other such thing as well, like for our domestic work. For drinking is the very basic need, we can say. But the domestic work, crop irrigation, and growth of the plants, all of these things require the water only. Exactly, student. That is why we can see that when the water is very important, so it is very essential for us to preserve it. Now, what the thing is, student, that water. Now we know this thing, that yes, water is important for us. But if I ask you that oh, okay, we are having so big oceans that even though I we can't say that how much water is present there. But it's just that, student, that if we talk about the ocean water, or if we talk about the sea water, or if we talk about the drinking water, so what happens, student, that the potable water we call it as the drinking water. So what the thing na, that the sea water which we are having, it is not of the use. That means that yes, on the earth the water is present in the abundant amount, but it's just that the sea water is not good for our use because it is salty nature. That is why if we talk about the fresh water or the drinking water which we use in our houses or in our public places like hospitals or anywhere for any use, that water is very less in amount. That is why they always we are advised to use the water very carefully. Exactly, because what happened is sometimes what people do, that they just are brushing their teeth and they just turn on the tap and just they forgot to turn off. Like they're just doing the brush for 5 minutes and the water is running. And even though what happened that if we take bath, so it's just that if we require one bucket, so what people do, they just use buckets, three buckets, four buckets. So what's the use of that? Exactly. So we should understand the need of the water, that where we have to use with how much amount of the water. Exactly. Because as we have seen, that is the line that if there is no water, then there would be no life. Exactly. Now, because what happened na, that yes, we are using water for our daily basic, like for daily base work, but it's just that if the water is not there, so we can imagine that water is not there, so how, that wastewater if the wastewater amount is more, so we are not able to consume it na. Exactly, like if someone asks you to drink that wastewater, will you be able to drink that wastewater? No, exactly, no, because you know this thing, that it is not good for our health, that is the hygiene conditions will be there. Exactly. So that's a student, we have to preserve the water, or we should use only the very appropriate amount of it. So I think we have discussed so much importance of the water. Now it's the sewage. That what's the sewage is? See, student, have you ever heard the word sewers? So, students, what happened? These sewers are present, you can say that at every place, so that the wastewater which is going out from our houses, from our offices, or the hospitals, so that these sewers will allow the passage of that wastewater. And now, what's the sewage is actually? So, the sewage or the domestic municipal wastewater is a type of the wastewater that is produced by the community of people. That means the wastewater which we produce, like which is produced by us only, we call it as the sewage. And the sewers are used to pass, so that that sewage or the wastewater can pass from our houses to some any other source. Exactly, because we can't collect that wastewater in our houses now. Either it is of any use, even though that the water which we use for our hygiene purposes, like in our toilets or in our bathrooms, so that water we can't collect now. So that is why, student, the sewage, we can see that it is a type of the wastewater which contains the impurities, the contaminants of human beings only. So that is the sewage. Now you can see that it could contain different kind of impurities. Now if we divide those impurities, you can say that it would be the soap water or the detergent water, or it may be the water which you have used for the utensil washing. Exactly. Or the water which you have used in your toilets. Exactly. Or we can say for the cleaning purpose. So that's a student, the sewage water, it's just that it is the domestic wastewater or the municipal wastewater which has been produced by us only. That means the community of the people, we call that wastewater as the sewage. And that sewage is passed through our, like it is passed through the sewers. That means you can say that they are the formation of some cemented rows, so that or the pipes through. So what happened, that sewage from our houses or the offices or schools or something, or any other area where the people are living, so from that area, what happened, that the sewers are used to pass that water to any other place, so that we can collect that sewage water at any such place, so that we can treat it properly, so that it could get purified. Okay. So that's how, student, we call it as the sewage, and that sewage water is also called as the wastewater because it contains so many impurities, so many contamination is there. Exactly, like if you can imagine about your house only, that in the whole day you can imagine that only from the very starting of the day or to the end of the night of the day, we just use water, water, water everywhere. You are washing your hands, you are taking bath, washing your clothes, washing your dishes, washing your fruits and vegetables, drinking water. So we are using water only. Exactly. And even though students, we know this thing that when we consume water, so that water is useful for the excretion of the liquid wastage from our body. So that water again get contaminated because it is containing those liquid wastage. So that's how, student, we can see that the wastewater which is produced by the community of people in any way I'm talking about, we call it as the sewage, and those sewers are used for the passage of that wastewater from the houses, or we can say from the domestic areas or the industrial areas. Okay, now that is called as the sewage. So now coming to the next part of this chapter, okay, it's water pollution. I think so. We don't need to study water pollution. That, or there is no need of the explanation about the water pollution, because what I'm going to explain you about water pollution, as we know, like the thing water pollution, the word is only saying that the water is polluted. Exactly, that the water is polluted. So polluted means in any way you can say, whether it is because of the domestic impurities, whether it is because of the industrial, or whether it is because of the impurities which we, or the things which we just deposit in the rivers, lakes, or so that's how the water is getting polluted. Exactly. So the water pollution occurs when harmful substances, often chemicals or the microorganisms, contaminate a stream, river, lake, ocean, aquifer, and because of it, it's degrading the water quality and rendering it toxic to humans or the environment. So that is called as the water pollution. That, as I've already told you, that whether the water is polluting because of any reason, like any reason, whether you are just directly supplying the wastewater into the rivers, as you can see in this picture also, that this pipe, it is containing this black water, that means contamination is there, and this water is coming from any industry or the factories. Exactly. So what could be the reason that they are just directly supplying that wastewater into the river or into any of the lake, and because of that, what happened, that the dirty water is going to be mixed up with the whole water, and that's how the quality of the water is degrading. Exactly. And it may contain some toxic chemical as well if it is coming from the industries or the factories. So what happened, that they contain chemicals, so that's how they may be containing chemicals as well, and those chemicals are generally acidic in nature. So what happened, that the acidic deposition will be there, and if there is the acidic deposition, obviously we can't use that water directly, because what we require neutral water. Exactly, students. So that's how, when we just mix up the good water quality with the bad water quality, and due to that some toxicity or some contamination is done with the water, with the pure water, so that's how, student, we call it as the water pollution, which is not good for the any, like use for any of the living being, either for the human beings, for the animals, or for the plants as well. We can't use that polluted water for any of the living beings, or it is not good for the environment as well. As you can see in this picture, that so many of plastic or so many dirty things are just present in this water. So you can imagine that initially that this river or this water was so beautiful to look at it. Exactly. But how that maybe the passage of the waste material directly into the rivers, or because of us only, this river or this pond or this lake has been polluted only. Exactly. If you have heard about that, the beaches in Mumbai, so they are very polluted because it's like that it is we can say that it is the place where people generally go for have fun in, or something like that. But it's like that you can go, you can have fun, but it's your duty that if you're going to some place, so you should not pollute that place by throwing any other substance like plastic bottles or any of the wrappers while using it. Exactly, because it is increasing the pollution over there. So that's our student, this is the water pollution. When because and it's just because of our us only, that when you mix the bad quality water with the good quality water, so what will happen? Eventually it is going to be form bad quality water, and due to which the water quality decreases and it become toxic or decontaminated, so that we can't use it. And that is called as the water pollution only. And you can see that there are so many reasons of water pollution, that the industries and the factories are directly passing their dirty water or their wastage directly into the rivers or the lakes. We human beings are going to some hilly areas or some places where lakes are there or oceans are there. What we are doing, that we just or seas, exactly. So what just we are doing, that we are directly throwing the waste material into them. Even though some people what they do, they like in the village areas, what I have seen is that some of the people, I'm not talking about all, so some people what they generally do is that they are having like it's the, we can say, custom in the villages, that people generally have some animals in their houses, that they like to have animals, so like buffaloes, cows. So what they will do, like if a person is having 10 cows or 10 buffaloes, so what he'll do, that he just take all of them and they just try to make them bath in the river. So what happened, that due to this reason also, we can say that the water is getting polluted, because directly the animals are going to in such a large amount of water, and because of that the water is getting polluted. Exactly. So that's a student. There are so many reasons. If we talk about that, what are the reasons of the water pollution? So again, like the water importance. If we talk about, it is having so many options. Similarly, water pollution is also having so many reasons that why the water is getting polluted. And it's like student that okay, I can say that yes, animals also responsible, because maybe they just go and just take bath in the lake or pond, or water gets contaminated. But we can see that animals are different for human beings, exactly, because human beings are more mature, exactly. But even though like we are studying everything and we know everything, that yes, by doing it the water is getting contaminated, exactly. But it's only us, or we can say it's the only community of the people or the human being who is responsible for the water pollution. I'm not saying that the water which we are using in our houses, it is not going to be contaminated, exactly. When we are bathing, washing, so obviously water is getting contaminated, but it's just that we should take care of it, that how much water we are using at that point. Like if for the cleaning we just require one bucket or one mug at a time, so we should use that particular amount. Now why should we waste three or four buckets or something like that? Exactly. So that's a student, we should preserve the water, and if you're preserving the water, so it will directly decrease the water pollution. Exactly. So the water pollution is this, as we have discussed so much about this also. So till now we have seen what is the wastewater, what is the importance of the water. Sewage is what? Water pollution. Exactly. Okay. Now, what are the major water pollutant? See, students. Okay, I know this thing. Yes, the water is getting polluted, but how it is getting polluted? That what are the sources from where the water is getting polluted? As we have discussed so many reasons already, but now we have to see some kind of sources also. So it's just that we are having two type of sources: point sources and non-point sources. So point sources, or if we talk about the water pollutant, that means the sources which are responsible for the water pollution, we call them as the water pollutant. So these are two: point sources and non-point sources. So if we talk about the point sources, so in the point sources what happen is that these are such type of sources where the pollution is creating, or the where the or from where the what wastewater is coming from the one point only, or from one specific area. You can say from one specific area. So we call it as the point sources. For example, industry facilities. That means that wastewater or that contaminated water is coming from the through pipes. We can say that means it is coming from one specific area. So industrial facilities, mines, oil fields, untreated sewage, wastewater effluent, construction site, sewage treatment plant. So all of these are not that from where one specific area the water the wastage is coming, so that it is mixing with the water. Now if we talk about non-point sources, that means it is not coming from any specific area, no specific area is there. So that is for what happened now. Like if you say, ma'am, what do you understand, like what do you mean by specific and non-specific area? For example, like industries there, so what they'll do, they just make some kind of structure that through one pipe there is the passage of the waste material from the industries to any other source, and generally that source is any open river or lake. So what happened, that they are using one specific pipe for the passage, that is why we are calling it as the point source. But if we talk about the non point source, so these are the you can say that which is not using any of the thing like for pipes or something like that. For example, agriculture or irrigation. Agriculture or irrigation requires a long field, exactly long area of we can say earth. So that's how you can see that the pollution is getting from that overall area, so we can't say from any one point we are getting it. So that is how point sources and non-point sources: agriculture, irrigation, pasture and range, unsewered areas, that means the area which are not having sewers. So what will happen if there are sewers? So what happened now, that to the sewage, that the wastewater which is coming out our houses or the offices, so what happened, they just passed from the sewers to some specific area. But if there are no sewers, so you can imagine that the wastewater which we are which is coming out from our houses, so it can go anywhere. Exactly, it is not going any one specific area, so it can mix up with any river, any lake. So that's how you can say unsewered areas. Abandoned mines, acid deposition, as I've told you that the factories are having the acidic wastage, so acid deposition, runoff of chemicals into surface water. So that are the two type of the water pollution sources of the water pollution. That is, one is the point sources, that means the pollution which is creating from one specific area or from one point source like pipes, or we can say that the large pipes, as you can see in this picture, that through these pipes, like you can say that it could be a point source and it could be a non-point source, because here what happened, that people are coming, or maybe due to any reason, that the waste is throwing, you can throw here. So that's how you can see that it is a point source, because from one point the wastage is getting passed, but here nothing point is there, but you can see that the pollution is there, so we can say it is the non-point source. Okay, so these are the examples of the point sources and the non-point sources. So now students, you can see that so many sources are there for the water pollution. So don't you think that we should reduce it? Like I have said this thing, that if you preserve the water, so it indirectly reduce the water pollution. Exactly. If you're preserving the water, if you're thinking that okay, at that point I should use one bucket or I should use one mug, so definitely the pollution will be reduced. Exactly. So that's how student, you have seen that these are the major pollutant, water pollutant, because of the water pollution is increasing day by day. That means we have to stop these things. Exactly. Okay, now we are having some questions, as we have discussed all of the topics which we have decided to discuss in this session. So now it is, which one of the following is the quality of the wastewater? Oh my god, wastewater is having some quality. I thought it is having only what I can say, quality of wastewater, because we know because generally when we talk about quality, yes, I know quality may be good or bad, both type of qualities, but generally if we talk about what is the quality, so generally people say that yes, quality should be considered as the good points, but now we are talking about wastewater, so it could not be a good point. So what's the quality of the wastewater? Foul smell, bad taste, dirty look, or all of these? Obviously all of these. The wastewater is having foul smell as well as the bad taste and the dirty look. For the foul smell, you don't have to do anything. It's just that the smell is coming. Bad taste, I know that you'll say, ma'am, we are not going to drink. Obviously, if it is getting foul smell, so its taste is also very bad at that point. Dirty look, like as we have seen that black water. So that black water, so it is a, also you can see that these are the qualities of not, sorry, not fresh water, wastewater. So all of these, so yes, D option is correct, all of these, because all these are the quality of what wastewater. Second question, it says that period 2005 to 2015 is being celebrated as the International Decade for Action on Water for Life, Education for All, Global War, or Terrorism. It is for the water of life. Now, water for life. Now, why we are talking about this thing? Because student, what happened that if you have also noticed this thing that that the debate over the water pollution or the importance of the water or the save water, so you can see that it is going on from a long time. Because what happened that from the very starting of the 20th, we can say 20th century, 2001 or 2002, that the people start realizing that the shortage of water is there. Shortage of water, how? That the water pollution is increasing because the population is increasing. See, increase in population is also a cause of the water pollution. So that's a student from that decade, from 2005 to 2015, in many of the countries and many of the areas, people start taking some of the steps so that they can preserve water. That is why we call it as the decade or the international decade for the action on water of life, so that we can preserve the water or we can reduce the water pollution. But I think so it could not be possible because we people only we are doing such things. So option A is the answer for this question. Okay. Which one of the following is a step in wastewater treatment? Aeration. See, students, that if I talk about water aeration, okay, because here we are talking about the water only. So water aeration is the type of, we can say that it is used for the maintaining the oxygen level in water. So what happened now? If we see when the water is polluted or the wastewater is there, so why we can't use it? Because the oxygen level decrease. The water irrigation is a step which we use in the wastewater treatment so that we can maintain the oxygen level in that water. Because why? When we drink water, so we get oxygen from it, exactly. And even though if you have seen that the aquatic animals or the aquatic plants which live in water, so how they are surviving? Because they are getting the oxygen from water, na? That's how they are also surviving. So that's how water aeration is a process in which there is a maintenance of the oxygen level in the water. Filtration, obviously you can see that the ROs are here in our houses, that is generally used for the purification of water. Filtration, we can directly relate it with purification of water only. That means the filtration, so that we can filter out the impurities from the water so that we can have the good water. Chlorination. So chlorination is a technique in which we use the chlorine. So chlorine is act as a disinfectant. Okay, it acts as a disinfectant. That means it remove all of the impurities or the bacteria so that the water get clean. So all these are the steps which we use in wastewater treatment. So that is why student option D is the correct answer for this question. Okay, and even though chlorination is used in many public places like the in the water park, because many people goes there, so what happened, and that there will be chances of the transferring of the disease. So that's how they generally use the chlorination process for the cleaning of water. So that's the answer of this question. Okay, so we have done with this session, students. That means we have covered up all of the topics. We have discussed these questions. Now it's just that you have to watch this video very carefully. And if any question, if any doubt is there after listening this video, so what you can do is you can post your question over the public or the private forum of Ask IITians, and you will getting your answer from the expert side. And it's just that think about what like water pollution or the importance of the water or how can you reduce it, exactly. So now we'll meet in our next session and we'll continue this chapter only because we left some part here, so we'll continue with that. Fine. Thank you everyone.